A video about a, an and the. Isn't that boring? Well, it's not boring if you get the exam results that you want, or if you get the job you really wanted, or if you avoid having difficult conversations because you're using the wrong English grammar. These 45 article rules are essential for good English grammar if you want to use, speak or write in English at an advanced level. And this video includes 10 advanced rules that I've never taught on YouTube before. And this is how we're going to do it. You're going to read a text. The text will have some gaps in where you could put a, an, the, or leave blank. Read the text and then fill the gaps with one of these letters and words you can see on the screen here. Here comes the story. It was gap extremely hot week in gap Europe. During gap week, gap temperature reached 45 degrees in many gap places. Gap people didn't go to gap work. Gap commuters didn't travel by gap train because it was so hot. Gap spokesperson for gap EU told gap people to drink gap water. She was gap new spokesperson for gap science. So, do we fill the gaps and how do we fill them? Step 1 is to identify the nouns because articles go before nouns and they relate to the noun. The nouns are these in bold here. So now we've identified the nouns, let's see which article we should use and why. Starting with these here. It was an extremely hot week. Go down 5 lines. A spokesperson for. So we're looking at a and an here. Why did we use them? It's because we use a and an with singular countable nouns when you are describing one of many and it's the first mention. So in the first line, we're looking at the word week. This is 1 week out of many. It's the first time we've mentioned it. It's singular, 1 week, and we can count it. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it fulfills all of the rules. And the same with spokesperson. You'll notice the number in the red circle 1 to 5, and this represents rules 1 to 5 in my PDF 1000 English Grammar Rules Explained, which you can download through a link in the video description. Let's move on to the next line. And here we've added the twice. During the week, the temperature reached 45 degrees centigrade. Why the? It's because it fulfills these rules. Use the with countable or uncountable nouns that are 1, unique in some way, 2, a specific example of that noun, and or 3, previously mentioned. The first the fulfills rule 3. It's previously mentioned during the week. In the sentence before we said it was an extremely hot week, first mention. Next line, during the week, second mention. The temperature is a specific instance of a temperature. So that fulfills rule 2. And now let's look at these purple dots. During the week, the temperature reached 45 degrees centigrade in many places. Now, the 2 dots represent leaving it blank. We're not using a, an, or the here. So it's many places. Then the next sentence starts with people. People didn't go to, and then the next sentence also starts with commuters. There's no article before people or commuters. Then the second line from the end, a spokesperson for gap EU told leave blank before people and leave blank before water. So why did we not use an article in any of these instances? It's because of the rules for no article. Use no article with uncountable or plural nouns when you are describing some of many and it's the first mention. So this is pretty much the same as the rules for using a or an. But here we're referring to plurals and uncountable nouns. Places is a plural. It's more than one place. So no article here. It's the first time we've mentioned it. People, well, this is a plural noun. Then commuters is also a plural noun. Now, EU told people to drink water. Now here I have not used an article before it because there isn't a clear enough link between these people that the EU spokesperson was speaking to and the people who went to work. They're probably a different group of people. If it was the same group of people, then we would use the, because then we would be saying it for the second time. But it's probably not. It's probably a new group of people. So again, it's plural. It's the first mention. It's some people out of many, so do not use an article here. Water is an uncountable noun, so no article because it's the first mention again. So those are the basic rules for a and the and no article. Now let's go on to some more complex rules. You'll notice in the last line here that you could use either a or the to fill the gap. She was a new spokesperson or she was the new spokesperson. Why? We could use a and an. Well, here it would be a because it's before new, which is a word that starts with a consonant. Because it's the second mention, but after a copular verb. So usually with the second mention of an article, we use the. But if it's a copular verb and where the noun afterwards describes the subject, rather than a standard subject-verb-object structure where the subject does something to the object, in the copular form it's the other way around. The noun after the verb actually describes the subject. So, new spokesperson describes she, the subject. In this form of sentence, we don't have to use the for the second mention, unless we look at the next rule, and that is to use the when specifying a noun to make it unique. Because she wasn't just any spokesperson, she was a or the new spokesperson. And if there's only one new spokesperson, then we've specified the noun by adding new to make it one. And in that case, you should use the. She was the new spokesperson because that would mean she's the only new spokesperson. So it depends what you mean here. You could use a or the. Here's the next one. Now look at the final line. She was, let's say, a new spokesperson for science. No article before science. And that's because we use no article with topic nouns used in a general sense. And science is a topic noun. It includes all of the different aspects that make up science as a whole. So no article here. We also use no article in a similar fashion with many abstract and abstract nouns which are also uncountable. Let's go back to the top of the text and also halfway down. You'll notice that there are two more areas which are shaded in white here. In the first sentence, it was an extremely hot week in no article before Europe. But there is an article before the EU, a spokesperson for the EU. Why the difference here? We're referring to nations after all. Well, you have to follow the rules for articles before nations. Use the with countries which are real words, plural, or island groups. Also rivers and oceans, and also mountain ranges, deserts and forests. Now, let's look at that rule number one again. Countries which are real words, you have to put the before them. Now, what does EU stand for? It stands for European Union. So we have real words in here. Union is a real word. And because it has a real word, even though European is describing union, because the union is a real word, we use the before it, which is different to Europe on its own, because we use no article with other countries. No article before Europe. Europe is not a word you'd find in the dictionary, except it doesn't exist apart from the name of the area. It's not a group of islands and it's not plural. So no article before Europe. Also no article before lakes, waterfalls and individual mountains. And here's another rule we've not got to yet. People didn't go to work. No article before work. That might surprise you because you may think we need to have articles before places. And generally we do. We use the before most specific places, for example, the town hall. If we said the town hall, then it would have been people didn't go to the town hall. We would have included the. But here we don't include the article because of the next rule. We use no article before some places where the focus is on the activity. For example, work. Work is a workplace, but we're actually focusing on the activity of doing work. We're going to the workplace, but we're going to work means the activity. You can go to the school, but you can also go to school because you're going to learn. And there are certain nouns in English which actually represent an activity instead, and those will not take an article before them. Have a look at my 1000 PDF, my 1000 English Rules PDF for more on that. Did you notice by train didn't have an article either? Do we have to have an article before transport types? Well, usually we do. We use the before most transport types. Actually, we could use a as well if it fulfills the rules for un. But we use no article for common transport types after the word by. Commuters didn't travel by train or by bus or by plane or by boat. By is an exception. No article afterwards if you're referring to transport. Okay, that covers a whole range of rules, but there are a few more that I still haven't covered, and some of the rules I've never taught on YouTube before are coming up next. In the next text, you've got to spot the mistakes. Here come the mistakes. Ants are amazing. In this country, a lot of ants live in South. In fact, a most popular place for ants is next to M25 near London. Seeing the ants there is quite experience. Apparently 1 million ants a day cross the motorway. The King Charles loves nature, so he has protected the ant species. Where are the mistakes here? Could you spot them? There are 5 mistakes. Sometimes it's because a word is wrong, or sometimes it's because a word has not been put in. Here are the mistakes. So ants are amazing. In this country, a lot of ants live in the South. In fact, the most popular place for ants is next to the M25 near London. Seeing the ants there is quite an experience. Apparently 1 million ants a day cross the motorway. King Charles loves nature, so he has protected the ant species. Let's study these errors and learn a bit more about articles. First of all, in the South. Use the before north, south, east, west when these words mean in that area. So when we say in the South, we mean the area of the South, a general area. But use no article when these words, north, south, east, west, describe another noun. For example, in North London. No article there because north is describing the noun London. On to the next one. In fact, the most popular place for ants is next to the M25 near London. We normally use the before superlatives. The most popular place. You might occasionally hear a most popular place, but that tends to be in old-fashioned literature. The modern, correct, standard way of writing this is the most popular place. Now, articles with road names are quite interesting. For road names, use the when the road has a kind of a code like M25 or A6 or IC50. With these roads, put the in front of them, usually. So you'd say, I'm travelling on the M25, not I'm travelling on M25. We also use the when the meaning of the road name is emphasised. So if I'm looking at the road below in America, the Pacific Coast Highway, the meaning of the road name is emphasised. It's to do with the Pacific Coast. It's not a random word which has no meaning. So often with these kind of roads, we put the into it. It doesn't always work because sometimes over years, different usage of the or zero article before road names can creep in. But in most instances, if you have a road name with a real meaning, then we'll tend to put the if we want to emphasize the meaning, if we want to focus on the meaning of what the road is. However, if the word is considered a name, use no article before the road. So Wall Street, we don't say I live next to the Wall Street. We'd say I live next to just Wall Street, where wall is not there because of the wall. We don't think of Wall Street because there's a big giant wall next to the road. We think of Wall Street because that's a place in America where people trade money. We're not focused on the real meaning of the word here. On to the next one. Seeing the ants there is quite unexperienced. Now, you may be surprised because of the first rule here. When using abstract nouns generally, use no article. For example, this job requires experience. So quite often we'll use abstract nouns in that way. No article because we're referring to them generally. But some abstract nouns can be referring to just one instance of that noun. And that's what's happening here. Seeing the ants there is quite unexperienced. It's one experience when you see the nouns. And in that case, you can use an article. On to the last one on the screen, and then a few other things will follow. King Charles, not the King Charles. Now, that's interesting because sometimes you can use the before the king, but only in certain ways. With titles, if the title comes before the name, use no article. For example, King Charles, no article. But if the title comes before the area he or she has power over, use the, then the title, then of, and then the name. So, for example, the King of England, not King England, the King of England. Now, this was not a mistake, but you may have been wondering why it was there. Apparently 1 million ants a day cross the motorway. And an or an can be used instead of per when stating that each unit means this much as a number. So 1 million ants a day is the same as 1 million ants per day. So that means in one day, 1 million ants do this. And let's go back to the very beginning. Why didn't I use an article before ants? Ants are amazing. Well, here I'm talking about ants as an example of all of them. Now, any type of article can be used to introduce most nouns as an example of all others. I could have said, an ant is amazing, the ants are amazing, the ant is amazing, or ants are amazing. I think the most common way that we say this in English is to use the plural form with zero article. So what you see here is the most common way, but you will see the other ways with other articles too. But something to bear in mind. When turning uncountable nouns into concepts to be studied. So we take the noun and we turn it into something that we're going to focus on and learn from and analyse. Sometimes when we do that, then we use the in front of it. We might say here, the ant is an example of an insect. So when we say the ant, often what we're doing is we're turning it into a subject of its own that we focus on and study more closely. So lots of important article rules there that may seem insignificant, but actually make a huge difference between whether you'll just be an intermediate English learner or whether you'll reach that advanced proficiency level of English. So make sure you learn all these rules and use them in your speaking and in your writing. And take your advanced English much, much further with my 1000 English Grammar Rules Explained PDF. And you can get this PDF by clicking in a link below this video. It's through my website, englishwithrupert.com.